pisses me off is the discourse around how women only go for the top 15% of men. Like, am I supposed to be going for the fat loser who doesn't have a job and lives at home? Am I supposed to be attracted to that? Obviously, I'm going to be attracted to the guy who's ambitious, the guy who's manly, the guy who takes care of himself and his health and works out, the guy who's tall, the guy who's going to give my kids good genetics. Why on earth would I be attracted to the fat loser? Or any loser for that matter. Even an average guy. Like, why, if I could pick the best of the best, why would I be attracted to the mid-tier? Like, hello. Especially if I'm a top quality girl. What happened to earning your place in this world? You're gonna be a loser in this life and then expect people to want you? Like, that's just common sense that that's not going to happen. Like, if I was fat and ugly, I would not be surprised that men are not going for me and instead they want the girls who are fit and beautiful. Like, I didn't earn to be on their level. I didn't earn to be wanted like that. So maybe instead of complaining that women only want the top 15%, work on becoming top 15% or somewhere near that number instead of sitting at home being a loser, trying to be a little victim.
Attraction isn't a moral judgment. It's selection. If she's chasing the top 15%, that's not a conspiracy. It's market dynamics. Everyone wants the best option available. The answer isn't to shame preferences. It's to raise your value or accept the tier you occupy. Top-tier dating follows top-tier output. Nobody owes anyone an upgrade.
So I would love to get married again, but now it seems like men don't want to get married anymore. Like, why is this? Can't we just get a prenup and be happy and be married? I get it where there's so many people that just live together and they live a married life, but they don't actually get married. Are people at least getting rings still? So at least you can show, like, I'm taken when you're out and about if you don't want to get married. What is the real reason men don't want to get married anymore? Is it money? Is it they've already had half of their stuff taken from a divorce, so they're bitter? I'm really curious. I feel like the partnership that comes with marriage is just a little bit different than if you're just dating someone, because they can always cut bait and jump ship because there's nothing to lose. When you do have, like, skin in the game, I feel like people would be more apt to, like, work through challenges, try to figure it out to stay together, versus if you're never married, it's easier just to be like, okay, fight and run away. But are guys really not wanting to get married anymore? Let me know in the comments.
Marriage collapsed into asymmetric risk, and men tuned into the math. Prenups and good intentions don't erase the reality of court outcomes or custody strains. Skin in the game became a one-way street. If marriage looks like liability dressed as love, opting out is rational, not cowardly. Men aren't allergic to commitment. They're allergic to being set up to lose.
Absolutely insane how much women expect from men that they're only dating. Men in the early dating stages do not owe you anything. Only thing a man owes you is connection, compatibility, a little bit of attention, but you're not his woman yet. Why does he have to pay your bills, pay you gifts, take you out on expensive dates? Prove that he can earn your love? That's absolutely wild how some women act in the early dating stages. Men don't owe you anything. They have other responsibilities, bills as well. However, if you're his woman, then he can spoil you. You should never expect it. I'm just saying, women have a convoluted idea of how dating should be and what dating actually is about. Absolutely wild. Absolutely insane. Men don't owe you anything while dating.
Dating is an audition, not a contract. Expecting a stranger to underwrite your lifestyle before there's commitment is entitlement. Men can be generous, but generosity isn't obligation. If you want devotion, earn it. If you want convenience, buy it. But don't confuse the two.
I'm no expert on the male brain, but I do have a theory when it comes to men and dating that I think really rings true. And this theory is my Roman Empire, okay? This happened to me a few months ago in my relationship, and within the last week, this verbatim situation has happened to 3 of my friends. So to me, my theory is proven accurate. And also, let's speak to the divorce rate, okay? So hear me out. My theory is the fact that men will marry the woman in front of them at the time in their life where they're the most financially confident and mentally and physically confident with themselves, their career, and everything. And I say that because last relationship, the best man I've ever been with, he was a walking green flag. Like, he really set the bar high for the next person to come into my life. And I have high standards. He checked all my boxes, okay? And I will never say a bad thing about that man. And my friends all were with such high quality guys too. Nothing bad. A few weeks go by, a few months, whatever, 180 changes. What happens in these guys' lives? All of these guys either had a career change or lost their job, and instantly, poof, we're out of their lives. Why? Because I feel as though men put so much of their ego into their career. They want to be the big dog. They want to be the richest in the room. And that's great. I think some men feel as though they need to be like the provider. And if they can't do that, they don't feel confident in like the breadwinner, you know, but I don't care. As long as you treat me so well and treat me like the freaking princess and queen, that's all that I care for. I feel like as women, we like to feel nurtured and cared for when we're going through that tough transition in life, whether it is losing a job or just having some trouble in your life. You like to have a relationship to lean on, whereas men, they don't want it. It's almost like they shut everything out, and then when their life feels complete and happy, that's when they want to add a woman into it. So that's my theory, and I think it rings true, okay? Like, the proof is in the pudding, babes. The proof is in the pudding.
Masculine identity is anchored in competence. And when the career compass breaks, so does some men's sense of purpose. Many men aren't built to pivot into emotional vulnerability. They retreat to rebuild. That retreat reads like abandonment to women, but it's often protection of pride, of self-respect, of future options. If you want a partner who stays through the drop, the relationship needs structural reciprocity, not conditional praise.
So why does dating feel almost impossible for men in 2025?
Dating feels almost impossible for a lot of men in 2025 because, you look at the average guy. The average guy isn't getting matches on dating apps. He's not getting stopped or, getting a lot of affection from women in his daily life. He probably doesn't have a whole lot of friends. And so he's online and he's seeing all of these gorgeous women, some of whom aren't even real with AI now. There's a lot of AI girls out there, edited photos and stuff like that. And they're just suffering this constant barrage of them feeling inadequate by what their life experience is teaching them versus what they're seeing online, which is like a lot of, attractive women or couples or stuff like that. So they just kind of feel beaten down by it, and it really does suck being the average guy who isn't taking control of their life in today's day and age. There's absolutely no sympathy for them. But the good news is that if you do choose to rise above this and do choose to actually start bettering yourself and start doing the things that is going to give you a result with women, then it can be possible to be successful. And the bar is pretty low because most guys don't try. Most guys just, wallow in self-pity, and they take themselves out of the dating market because they think that it's not worth it for them. But in reality, I don't care who I'm talking to. If you're watching this, like, you absolutely can change your circumstance.
This is the other side of the ledger. The average man is battling perception, tech, and loneliness. Dating apps supercharge comparison and shrink the market for the median guy. Self-improvement works, but the real fix is structural. Fewer illusions, more accountability. Men can rise, but the platform they're competing on is skewed, so expecting instant success without effort is naive.
Why is it when you can afford the things you want and you can afford the lifestyle you want, men become so unattractive and useless? Seriously, it was so much easier to date when I was poor. I wasn't that picky. Now, it's like, what's the reason for me to even go out with a guy if I don't find him very attractive? Yeah. There's just like, I see no reason to even bother. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need anything from him. So why would I go out with him if I don't find him attractive?
Comfort changes the calculus. When life was lean, standards matched scarcity. Once wealth arrives, tolerance for mediocrity evaporates. That isn't superficiality, it's prioritization. You stop trading time for consolation prizes. Dating becomes a filter, not a fallback, and that filter separates the willing from the worthwhile.
Here is what I learned about the dating scene once I became a high income earner myself. Okay, so for full transparency, I was making $80,000 at around 25 years old. And then at 26 years old, I jumped and I started making over $200,000. My package was over 230. Okay, but just to round it up. The men that I was going after were no longer special, okay? So the men that I thought, oh, they have money, oh, they're la 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 la, they were not special. There was nothing special about them. It was the perception of prestige. These men were not more capable than me. They were not more successful than me. They just had more ambition at some point, but I had much more. I just ended up actually in a very male-dominated industry, to the point where I was one of the very few women that was there. So it is a man's world, let me tell you that, and it is gate-kept. But I was relentless and just went after things and did not think about my gender. The man that I was dating, okay, no longer was special to me. I looked at him and he became my competition in that he saw me as competition. He was 30 years old and all of a sudden he was like, oh, you're now making more than me technically. What? Whoa. So he went full on crazy mode where he was like he was just mean out of nowhere, just cruel out of nowhere. I dropped him like that. And there's more to that story, but it was horrendous, okay? 3, and most importantly, what you need to realize is you gotta go out and make that money yourself. I don't care how hard you have to work, get it fucking done, okay? Because you are not gonna attach yourself to a man to succeed in life. If you think that man's money is gonna protect you, or that man is rich and he's the reason why you're gonna get the life that you want, that's not happening. You're at the mercy of his love. You're at his mercy.
Money doesn't just buy things. It rewires expectations. When she matched or exceeded men financially, the dynamic shifted from partnership to competition. That break in perceived hierarchy breeds insecurity, and insecure men either double down or vanish. The remedy isn't clinging to old roles. It's building independent leverage so you're chosen, not tolerated.
I think that guys are not so difficult. I think it's more women who like to make things complicated and try to find reasons and underlining meanings, and we try to overthink about things. What I personally think men want is they want a cute girl around who's not gonna be a headache and not gonna give him unnecessary drama. But some women, they just can't take no for an answer. If a guy doesn't like you, you're gonna start thinking, oh, maybe it's something in his childhood, or maybe this. No, he just doesn't like you. He just wants to sleep around a lot of women. But women have a hard time accepting that.
Simplicity wins. Men respond to directness. They don't perform for riddles, emotional tests, or bureaucratic interpretation. When dating is a puzzle you grade by subtext, men either burn out or withdraw. If a relationship is going to survive, it needs clear signals and fewer manufactured dramas. Otherwise, you're rewarding performance over presence.
As a woman who's dating, I know that it's harder for guys to be dating than it is for girls. I know that we have it so much easier. Because if we wanted to, we could all be married right now with kids. I'm just being real. We could have all settled down. We could have all been married, had babies by now. If I said yes to the 2 guys that proposed with me, if I said yes to the first guy that proposed to me, I'd probably be 4 kids deep at this point. If I said yes to the second guy that proposed to me, then I probably wouldn't be kids deep, which is why we're not actually together. And equally, for girls to get a date, very easy. But as a woman that has standards, I'm not just going to settle. So we'll move on from this for a second. Let's talk about the guys and why it's so difficult for them. I think for a guy to get a date these days, I don't know, let me know, but I think it's difficult. Especially now everyone's standards are going up. Yeah, there's still a few pick-me girls here and there, but who wants them anyway? I feel like guys have to put in so much more effort at this point. They have to really impress someone. They have to take people to nice places. Of course, you have to pay the bill. I recommend sending flowers afterwards. A gift after 3 or 4 dates is not going to go amiss. Whilst we just choose which one of you are actually going to date more than once, do you know? But yeah, that stuff is hard, man. I don't know how you guys do it. Anyway, I'm not dating advice for men. I'm only dating advice for women. So I can't help you, but it's just something that I was thinking about today.
Choice is leverage. Women statistically have more options at similar costs of effort, so the decision set favors them. That doesn't make dating pain-free, but it changes the incentive structure. Women can afford to be choosy. Men often cannot. Recognition of that imbalance is the first step to realistic strategies, not whining, but adaptation.
Marriage, in case you didn't know, is on the decline. In fact, it's down 60% in the US since the 1970s. There's lots of reasons why. First of all, it's expensive to get married, set up housekeeping, raise a family. Culturally, it doesn't seem like it's so important anymore. Religion is not dictating the date, or at least it didn't used to. And finally, and this is what I hear over and over again from young women and old women alike, it's hard to find a good man. And here's what I mean by a good man. One that'll pull his weight in the family. One that'll work as hard as you do his fair share of housekeeping and family chores. Be faithful. Stick around. Well, these guys are out there because a lot of my friends are married to them and they're happy. And let me just say right here that a happy marriage is about the be all and end all for human experiences in my mind. I'm sad that I couldn't achieve that on a long-term basis. I've got good men in my life. My dad was awesome. I've got two brothers who are both good guys. I've got two sons and a son-in-law who I consider to be good men, and some good guy friends. So I'm not biased. I don't think. Is it hard to find a good man? Let me know in comments.
Data and experience line up. Marriage declined because cost and cultural shifts made it unattractive for many. But the good men aren't extinct. They're scarce and often prioritized by women who value steadiness. If marriage is to revive, incentives have to change. Less risk for the provider, more mutual accountability, and clear expectations. Sentiment alone won't rebuild the institution. Structural fixes will.
So this is actually insane. I posted a video yesterday talking about how nobody wants to commit in my city to a relationship. Suddenly everyone in the comments is sounding off that all the cities are like this. I'm sorry, what the hell do you mean? You're telling us nobody's safe. It's actually insane to me that there is a pandemic of men who do not want to commit, and it's almost women are the ones chasing down commitment, chasing down a ring. I'm sorry, what happened to family values? Why are men struggling so much these days? I just want to understand what went wrong and why relationships aren't the driving factor of life. You're getting successful, you're making more money, but what is it all for? Why be successful? Why have all of this if you're not aiming for something bigger and trying to expand your lineage and find companionship? I'm so confused why we're not on the same page with men. My friends and I make literal jokes all the time that we need to move to a different country, maybe to the States, to find our husband, but the comments are giving no. Seems like nowhere is freaking safe. I don't know, something's gotta change, because it seems like both sides are unhappy and we're not finding solutions, because what the hell is going on?
Commitment collapsed into risk and optionality. Global trends show men weighing upside versus downside and often choosing custody of freedom over potential loss. Moving abroad or finding a safer market isn't cowardice. It's optimization. They want lineage and stability, but only where the rules don't punish them disproportionately. If society wants more committed men, it needs clearer, fairer systems that make marriage a win-win again.